The most powerful thing that I can give them is permission to give themselves grace. Because when we give ourselves grace, again, it says, okay, we're going to pick ourselves back up and we know better. Now we get to do better and we're going to go do it.
Y'all, today's show is so good.
But number one, I've never seen an intro like that.
It is my hope and desire that not only will episode 30 still be fun, but episode 300 will be even more fun. You are made for something great, so go and be awesome.
Ten seconds remaining.
And welcome to the show. My name is Renee Hastings, and I'm your host of Renee Speaks. Y'all, today's show is going to be so great, and part of that reason is because of our amazing sponsor, Wilbron. Wilbron is Alabama's premier public relations firm. If y'all have any PR needs, be sure to hit them up at www.wilbron.com. And in addition to our amazing sponsor, we have an even better guest speaker. Her name is Jillian Dolberry, and she is an operations consultant, and she's a team strategist for women entrepreneurs. And she's also the host of the Grace-Filled CEO podcast. She helps women align their values, implement streamlined systems, increase profit from the inside out, and handle tough conversations with her everyone in the room approach. Honor everyone in the room. That's her approach. And while she's striving to leave every business better than she found it. Y'all, put your hands together for Jillian Dolberry. Hey, Jillian.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fantastic, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. I feel like a queen after that intro. That was like impressive.
You are a queen. I tell you, you are so amazing. I looked up your information before the show, and I'm so impressed with how you handle these really tough conversations that people need to have in business. And for women, I know that can sometimes be a challenge, because maybe of our background or maybe some different things that we've been through, the way we were raised, whatever that looks like, it's sometimes really hard. And the way you women navigate through that is just so impressive. So thank you, Queen.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So Jillian, tell us a little bit about how you got started on this particular journey and before you started this, what were you doing?
Yeah, I love telling people this because there are so many lily pads that I jumped on before I got here. I actually got my degree in graphic design and I was not like the best student. And so when I found something that really made me excited, I just like jumped all in. And so I loved graphic design, worked in a corporate setting, but the corporate setting really just was not for me. I knew very, very quickly that I wanted to own my own business and being a creative, being like having a job that could very easily transfer into freelance, I was just all in on that. So I did transition into that after like 2 to 3 years in the corporate setting and really enjoyed that. Ended up working for my family's business and did marketing and design. And then also, as you know, in most family businesses, it's like all hands are on deck. And so I ended up doing some office management, some HR work, some implementing the value systems in the company, and helping people navigate some of those tougher conversations and challenges that are in the workplace. And so when I kind of got my feet wet in that, I came alive. And I realized that, yes, I'm a creative. I love to do creative things, but I also have a huge passion for conflict, for navigating conflict effectively, and making sure that everyone leaves the conversation feeling honored. And so from there, I've just been given opportunities to kind of step up and step up. And so now I'm in a place where I'm able to serve business owners and agency owners by helping them streamline their systems, because I believe that team systems and leadership are all very much intertwined, including profit. But I'm in a position where I'm able to kind of step into all of those things and help them navigate these hurdles with a lot of grace and making themselves feel honored in the process.
I love that. And there were three things that you just mentioned: teams, position, leadership, and say that again.
Yes, systems, team, and leadership.
Systems, teams, and leadership, and how all of those combined together actually end up leading to increased profits.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely. Because
Awesome.
there's so many things when we think about profit, we think about how much money's coming in and how much money's going out. Like it's just this black or white situation. But there's
Right.
so many things in our business with systems and team and the leadership that affects it as well that you just don't always see.
Right, exactly. And so what does it mean then to create a value-centered team, and why is that essential?
Yeah. So the very first thing in creating a value centered team is making sure that everyone agrees on the values. So when you think about hiring your first VA or you think about building out your team further, you want to make sure that whoever you bring into the fold has the same value system as you. Because if everyone has different values or maybe they value the same things, but their values are ordered differently than yours, and they're not able to kind of buy into what the company's values are in the order that they should be in, then it creates a lot of conflict. It creates a lot of lack of, or misaligned expectations, and kind of creates a barrier in communication and what's most important. So I would say making sure that the people on your team not only understand that what the core values of the company are, but also possess those values themselves and find them to be important.
I love that, because that's super important to me as well, being a Christian woman, entrepreneur, um, and so when I'm hiring someone, for our team, I definitely take that into consideration, that their values line up with mine and my vision for, our vision for the company. But one of the things that you just pointed out was that those values need to have the same priority
Yeah,
as ours. So that's new for me, because I was just thinking, well, as long as they are all, on the list, then it's good enough. But apparently, no, they have to, like, what our highest priority is needs to be their highest priority as well.
absolutely. And it may even come down to if they have the same values, let's say the same three values that you have in your company, they possess as well, and those are important to them. Let's say communication is your top. Then if they're able to buy into when they're working, communication is their top value, then that will work just fine. But everybody needs to be on the same page with that. So that needs to be a communication that happens between the owner, the manager, and the person doing the work and having to make decisions.
Agreed, 100%. And then, okay, so that's why I guess it's so key and critical then to make sure that not only do the people you bring in share your values, but your leadership team shares those same values and are able to articulate what those values are in your absence. So if they're overseeing a team of other assistants or a team of managers or whatever, the company's priorities for values needs to filter through them in the same way as it would as if it was coming directly out of your own mouth.
Absolutely. And there is, like, when you find someone who agrees on those values, it makes it much simpler. So that's why I recommend when you hire somebody in those positions that they understand them and that they have that same value system. But you can't just rely on them possessing the values, because we all have other things competing for our attention and competing for our priority. And so we not just don't just have to prioritize finding people who understand them and agree with them, but we need to implement it into everything that we do. into our training process, into how we communicate with people, into how we serve our clients, into how we manage conflict and handle conflict and reviews and basically everything. So it's not just
Agreed.
a communication one time, it's in like you're just entrenched into what those values are and how that impacts how the business operates.
Right. And it's basic you walk the talk, you live it out daily in every, pretty much every interaction that you have because it's just second nature, because it's who you are at your core. And speaking of core, so what are some core values that you see are super important to building a cohesive team?
Yes. So I would say the very first thing is communication. I went on this tangent the other day in my living room where I was like, I have this thought of when teams feel anxious, it's because there's no communication. When leaders feel anxious, it's because there's no communication. Nobody knows where they stand. Nobody
Yes.
knows where things are. And so there's like a lot of unknowns in that. But when we start to communicate and we humble ourselves and we show up and just try we put what keeps us from communicating a lot of the time is that we feel like it has to be perfect or we feel like it has to be professional or whatever. But sometimes just starting the conversation is going to help people get to a place where they feel safe and where they feel valued. And then that opens up so much more communication of like maybe where they see problems or being more collaborative. So I would say communication is a very, very top value that people should consider. Um, Another one I would say is clarity. And what I like to say is clarity is kindness. Um,
Clarity
Sometimes
is
we,
clarity is kindness. I love that.
yes, um, if we just say, I want to be kind to someone, sometimes we can misconstrue that or connect that with just being nice. And being nice is not it's not something that we shouldn't do. We should be nice to people, but in business, when you have to have hard conversations, there it requires another level of communication and grit, and you have to be able to navigate that effectively, which means there has to be clarity. And if we are clear with people, we are being kind with people because really at the end of the day, we all just want to know where we stand. We all just want to know where things are and have the veil lifted and just look at the truth, right? Look at the facts of where people are at the end of the day.
Right. That is so true. And this conversation is so timely because I just had to send a communication out to my team, and it was based on some feedback that I had gotten from a client. And I was like, oh no, if this is a situation for this client, I want to make sure it's never a situation for any other client. So I had to draft a communication, to the team, and we communicate because we're remote. We communicate through this platform called Slack. And this is not a plug for Slack, but anyways, um, that's how we as a team share information between one another, as an entire team, that sort of thing. And as I was drafting up this communication, it was really hard. And it was hard because the topic that that the client brought to my attention was kind of sensitive, and I didn't want to um, make the team feel bad because it wasn't an all across the board type situation. It was just a one time one off situation, but still I didn't want it to grow into something else. So I really had to like pass it back and forth a couple times between me and my business office manager, because I wanted to make sure that it was worded just right, that it was clear, and that people understood, what the situation was. And still, they are amazing, and keep up the great work. But we just need to be mindful of these couple things. So, is
Yeah,
there something you would have suggested that I may have done differently?
that's a great question. I love that you're being vulnerable in that and sharing that that's something that you recently dealt with. I don't think that I would suggest you do anything differently because what I would have done or what I would have instructed one of my CEOs to do is to If you're feeling a certain way, try to remove the feelings and work simply with facts because facts are not feelings. They're not the same.
Mm-hmm.
However, we
Thanks
can
for not feeling.
affirm, yeah, and if you think about it in a like sometimes we think about business in a black or white kind of way. If we think about it from that angle, facts are black and white, feelings are gray. And it's okay to affirm the feelings. It's okay to say to your team, hey, like, I know that this is sensitive. And if you have any challenges with reading this or you're feeling a little bit off, please feel free to come to me or your supervisor so we can help you talk that through because we care about how you feel about this. However, this is the feedback that we got from the client, and these are the steps that we need to take to improve this or to make changes or to make adjustments. And so this is how we will move forward in the future. But again, my door is always open if you need to chat through this further. So that way it gives the opportunity for you to affirm the feelings, affirm the gray, but you're acting on the black and
Love that. Love that. Thank you so much for the coaching.
white. Yeah, of course.
I love it. I love it. Free coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how we do podcasts, right?
Right, right, exactly. Bring on the subject matter experts and get all your questions answered.
That's right. It's smart. Work smarter,
I
not
love
harder. I love it.
That's awesome. Well, and that is actually how I ended the message with, acknowledging that this could be hard and we're here and we value their voice counts, that kind of thing. So, anyways, thank you so much for that
Well,
confirmation that I'm
good
on the
job.
right track.
Yes, absolutely. Great job, Renee.
Thank you. So now as we move forward, because this is all, I think, leading to a bigger conversation about overall team health, because especially working remotely, it's hard to make sure that there's this cohesion, that there's oneness, there's unity, and that there's a good, healthy culture being developed, even though we're, miles away from each other.
Yeah.
So, to that end, what strategies do you recommend for not only setting boundaries with our team, but also fostering collaboration?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say in order to set boundaries with your team, um, you people don't like this answer, but you just have to do it. And you have to communicate why it's needed because a lot of times we see boundaries as like, oh, they're not going to like this, people don't like boundaries make people upset because they're not getting what they want, but essentially the goal is the same. The goal is to boundaries help people protect the things that matter so that they can have flexibility in the ways that it matters also. And so I would say a strategy for setting a boundary with your team or your clients or wherever in life in general is to communicate the boundary very clearly because clarity is kindness, but then also to communicate why you're setting it because then that lets them into your heart and what's most important to you and how that boundary doesn't just help you, it helps them also.
Right. So, so that is kind of where we get into is it a feeling then that we're acknowledging, or is this like an actual um, fact that yes, this has to be this way, but it's because of, you know, these particular feelings?
Yeah, so I think you go back to the thought of feelings are not truth, facts are
Mhm,
truth. So we
mhm.
have to really consider what we're feeling about it versus what is the data in front of us on it. And like let's say a boundary that we might set with our team is, and I'll just specifically say with your team, but a boundary we might set is don't message me after 5 p.m. We don't communicate in our business, in our company after 5 p.m. And a way that you could use that or way to communicate that with your team is saying, hey, we are going to implement a new boundary or guide for people to not communicate via business after 5 p.m. The reason why we're doing this is because we believe you spending time with your family and investing in those relationships is equally or not, if not more important than what you do here. And if you are fulfilled there, then you are going to come to work showing up, feeling like your cup is full, and then be able to give your best work the next day. And I think that being able to communicate things like that is not just going to bridge the gap of communication of why we're setting that boundary, but it also just overall makes people feel safe, that you're not just thinking about not talking after 5 p.m. or not messaging me after 5 p.m. You're thinking about my well being. And it becomes less about you and more about them as well.
Right. Oh, I love that. I think that's an excellent example. We certainly need to set boundaries when it comes to work-life balance, for sure.
Yeah.
Sometimes we even have to have those conversations with our clients because our clients are entrepreneurs or business owners or, content creators, and they work around the clock. And I think because they work around the clock, they expect us to be working around the clock.
Yeah.
So I love that example. So as we're, and to me, this is also another difficult conversation, when we're having to say things like to our clients, like, we have these boundaries and these are my hours or whatever that looks like. But they're like, but I need somebody at 8 o'clock at night to, you know, call this person for me or something like that. That's a difficult conversation. So how do you approach those tough conversations to ensure that everyone feels valued?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say we have to when they say I have a need, I need you to call someone at 8 o'clock at night. We have to really figure out what is the actual goal here. Is the goal here that that the call is actually made at 8 o'clock at night? Is that the thing that they need, or do they need to know that this is going to be taken care of and taken to the finish line? I think we have to coach our clients a little bit on what they need as well because I tell my team and the teams that I work with that most of the time we're not operating an emergency type company. We don't we don't sell ambulances, we don't run ambulances, we're not trying to get you. It's not a life or death situation. And so because of that, we have to be able to manage the urgency of the conversation. Typically, like you said, like if a client's like, I've got to get this done or this has to be done by this time, we have to be able to have some confidence in saying, tell me why it has to be done at this time. Give me a little bit more understanding, or a good question to ask is, help me understand why this has to happen at this time in this way. And like, are you open to considering doing it this way? I think there's a lot of coaching that goes into that and really figuring out if it's just urgency or if it's actually emergency.
Got it. Oh, I love that. That is a great advice. Because we do need to coach our clients sometimes because they are so used to operating in emergency mode, trying to just put out fires constantly, constantly, constantly because they've been doing everything on their own and they're the person for doing all the things. And so everything is urgent and everything is important. But
Yes,
when we come alongside them, I love being able to have that conversation to say, you know, what is the end goal? What really do you want to accomplish here? Do you just want to know that it gets done quickly? Or does it really have to be done at 8 o'clock at night? Um,
right.
I love that. I think that is fantastic. And that once they um, get used to knowing or thinking differently about how business gets done, or how their business gets done, because it doesn't always have to be that way. Although some people are in like, I don't know, they have these deadlines maybe, and they have to meet the deadline. Of course, we don't want anyone to ever miss a deadline, but that's why we join alongside them to help plan in advance so that we're
Yes,
not to
absolutely.
the ninth hour,
Yes, and
doing all the
that's
things.
another piece as well is, we have it's our job to bring the peace, right? They've hired us to provide them peace because we're taking something off of their plate. So in order to do that though, we have to really know what is going to provide that peace. And if they're constantly in this cycle of feeling like everything in their business is urgent, then that is that's a more mindset issue that we have to help walk them through. And there's like some
Um,
empathy with that, right? Like there are
mhm.
time sensitive things in business, and there are things that are going to be important that need to be handled promptly. Um, but to be able to understand how people are feeling, then you're able, once you affirm the feelings, you can go back to the facts and say, okay, well, it sounds like I understand that this feels urgent, but the truth is that it doesn't have to be done at 8 p.m., but we can tackle it at 8 a.m. when we open up and we can support you again.
Right, right, absolutely. 100%. And I love that you say our job is to bring the peace.
Yeah,
I love it because that's exactly what we do. We bring the peace. I just have never heard it put quite that way, and I love it, so I may steal it.
please do. Please do. I am like, let's just create a whole new business movement where we are able to have peaceful lives and peaceful businesses and enjoy it again. Because I feel like business gets a bad rap of like, you've got to work long hours, you've got to sacrifice time with your family. And that's just not true. That's a narrative that culture tells us and that we've been kind of conditioned to believe,
Mhm.
but it's not truth.
Absolutely, 100%. Could not agree more. And I thank you so much for bringing that up because culture, the today's culture and how it tries to dictate our lives and what is
Mm.
important and how we advance or how we get ahead or what's considered successful even,
Yes,
you
yes,
know. Oh, we can't buy in. We can't let it dictate us. We have to run our lives. We can't let our lives run us. Uh,
absolutely.
and that's a line from The Coal Miner's Daughter by Loretta Lynn,
I love
in
it.
case anybody knows.
Perfectly placed. I love it.
I love it. So then, Jillian, are there any systems that you can think of that we can use to help streamline our teams and develop these processes that not only help us internally but also help our clients as well?
Yeah. So I would say implementing systems where communication is a part of it. So, um, really, it's any system that we use in our business. If there is some level of communication where I'm able to communicate to this person that it's complete, or I'm able to communicate if I need support, implementing that into all of our systems is important. But I would also say that creating a system around um, company collaboration with the people that are going to be working together and creating a culture of partnership between them is really, really important because if everyone feels clear on what their job is, you're empowering them to own the outcome of what they do best. And if someone is owning the outcome of that, you are not. And as a CEO, to be at the very end of like always having to check the boxes, always having to make sure everything's done perfectly, it will drive you crazy and it will make you feel so overwhelmed and so much pressure because your name is on the door. But if you hire the right people and you communicate your values and you communicate with your team and you empower them to own the outcome, then you are going to get more consistent and positive results and create a bigger impact for your business.
I love that. So we need to, as leaders, empower our team to own the outcome.
Absolutely.
That's fabulous. I love it.
Yeah.
And you're
Talk
so
about
right because even the way our structures set up, we have backups for one another. If a team member goes on vacation or whatever, their client doesn't have to even feel the dent of them being gone because there's a backup to fill in for them. So their business continuity just, continues. And sometimes I am the backup for that person who might have a very busy client, and and so not having to be in the weeds every single day with the client is really liberating because when I had to jump in and help out and on top of, working on the business and actually getting back in the business, I was like not getting to bed till midnight and just doing all kind of, it was a lot, lot, lot. But of course, our clients were satisfied because they didn't know that there was, all this other going on behind the scenes. But it's just what we do to support one another and to build this collaborative culture. And so our systems of communication that we have for, is super, super helpful, because I wouldn't have even known what to do had we not, took the time to meet beforehand, for them to show me all the different things that they do, and that sort of thing, so that I could just hop in and repeat it, visibly. And one of our clients actually ended up saying she was super impressed with the handover and the turnover of her being out and me jumping in, because she would never have even known that anything was different. But I knew like some secret sauce information I could only have gotten from her person. And so she knew that we took the time to make that, we took the time to understand how her business works, so that it was just invisible to her, that her regular person was gone and someone else was stepping in. But those are the kinds of things that I agree are so, so, so super important. The communication and the systems of communication, not only with one another, but with your client as well.
Yeah.
Because that's everything, especially, like I said, and I can only relate it to my frame of reference, which is working remotely, and serving clients, from afar, that they need to know and be assured that, yes, somebody is here with me. They are working, they are for me, and they're doing all the things I need to have done. And it's very crystal clear. There's no question about that. So that is great advice. I love that. Because especially even for small teams, like we were talking about, that this is super important, that everyone is on the same page, that everyone understands the same thing the same way.
Mm-hmm.
That's so important, that you have repeatable processes that everybody can do, should the need call for it. So that's awesome. Great advice. As we get ready to wrap up, and I can't believe the time is just going so fast. Where's the time?
I know.
So what, Jillian, do you, and I know that you run a business as well, what would you say is your secret sauce to running amazing teams?
I love that question. I would say grace.
Grace. I love that.
Yeah, grace for myself, grace for the people who I work with, and grace for the people who work with them. Because there is like part of, like we talked about, the culture of business and how people perceive how business should be run, or how they should run their business, or how they should handle certain things. There's so many areas where we're not going to get it right, and where we are going to do something and think about it and then be like, oh, should have done that differently. And there's so many lessons learned. But what is going to keep us in a small space is being really hard on ourselves and making ourselves feel bad because we maybe didn't handle it in the best way, or in a way that we now feel like we should handle it. And I would say when I'm able to give myself grace, I'm able to give other people grace. And it's like this snowball effect that happens. And when you give people grace, it's not making excuses for them. It's not, because again, clarity is kindness. So if you lump all of those together, you can be clear on what the gap of understanding is, on what we are here, but we need to be here. And to create clarity there is kindness. And it may not be what they want to hear, but grace is something that comes from us. It comes out of us, and how we speak to people and how we handle ourselves. And it's something that's like an intangible. But when we possess it, it just like overflows onto other people. When I work with CEOs, and they are typically, when I work with them, they're in a position where they are extremely stressed out, and they're like, I can't do this. This is not sustainable for me. So how do I streamline and create all these systems that are going to help me move my business forward, where I'm not dying from the inside out because I'm still doing all the work, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And what I hear when they say that is that they feel guilty. They feel like they're not doing a good enough job. They feel like they have messed something up and they need someone to come in and fix it. And the most powerful thing that I can give them is permission to give themselves grace. Because when we give ourselves grace, again, it says, okay, we're going to pick ourselves back up and now we know better. Now we get to do better and we're going to go do it. And so I would say that is really the thing that changes it all for the people that I work with, my personal team, and everyone moving forward.
Wow. Wow. That just spoke to my spirit like you wouldn't believe. Like,
I'm so glad.
honestly, like just give myself grace, give the team grace, give the clients grace, because we all need grace. And that is so true. And when we do, it's nobody's perfect. Nobody is perfect. Nobody's ever going to be perfect. And so
Mhm.
all we can do is the best we can do and keep it moving. And just
Yeah,
now, and once you, like you said, well, now that we know better, we're going to do better.
yeah.
So I love that. Thank you so much. That just truly filled my cup.
Good. Oh, that makes me so happy. Thank you. Thanks for saying that.
Honestly. And so is that kind of like what your podcast is about? Can tell us a little bit more about your podcast. I know that you're doing so many things, and I would love for our audience to learn more about you and your amazing podcast and all the great work that you're doing.
Yeah, so the podcast is taking a little bit of a pivot. So I've done there are a lot of episodes on there that are all about being grace-filled and being a grace-filled CEO. And we've gone into some different topics of like marketing and how to like get out of the feast or famine cycle, how to keep the lights on in your business when your life falls apart kind of thing. But I think moving forward, it's going to be a lot of interviewing and a lot of figuring out how business owners are giving themselves grace in the midst of everyday business challenges. And so it's a great podcast. It's got a lot of really tactical tools and resources and tips in like navigating your team and all of those things. So I definitely encourage people to check it out. I also have an agency health score quiz that people can take, and it's really simple. It just asks you some questions, and it'll give you like a comprehensive guide. Yeah, there you are, a comprehensive guide on how to basically make changes in your business that are going to implement more grace, implement more streamlined systems, help you take care of your team, help you take care of yourself. And it goes to those core categories of profit, team, systems, and leadership. So this is a quiz also that will provide you it has tools of like where you are today. It scores you, so it'll tell you where you are today and how to take steps forward into implementing some new things. So I really encourage people to take that as well. And it does include a complimentary strategy session. So why not? What are you waiting for?
Exactly, exactly. I love this. It's a beautiful website. And I love that they can take this quiz at jilliandolberry.com/quiz and find out what it is, like where they are today, and
Mhm.
actually receive some actionable steps to either get unstuck or to get where they want to be with the help of a complimentary session with you. So, thank you so
Mhm.
much for providing this because I know that you have so many years of experience and knowledge to be able to share with others who are, maybe in a place that they aren't happy with right now and need guidance on how to get to where they really want to be. So I love your website. It is so beautiful, very calming. I love the colors.
Yes. Are you seeing a trend?
Yes,
Peach,
absolutely.
grace,
I'm
calming.
loving this. I feel so calm. Um,
And that's what I want you to feel. My web designer is going to be so happy that you said that.
well, they knocked it out of the park, nailed it. Yeah, it works. 100%. So how else can we reach you? I see you have a website at jilliandolberry.com. Where
Mhm.
else can we reach you?
You can find me on Instagram. That's where I'm the most active. There I am. It's just Jillian Dolberry. And I post a lot of content and helpful tips as well for your team on there. So just kind of like scroll through it and digest and absorb all that you can. And if anybody has any questions, like just send me a DM. I love chatting with people and helping people. And I just have like a really deep passion for correcting the narrative around business and how, as women, we operate in business and the pressures that we may feel. So I love to chat with people about that and just really help bring them to the finish line of feeling more at peace and being able to have fun in their business.
I love that. Oh, have fun in your business. What a concept.
I know.
Right?
I know. Who would
Uh,
have
I,
thought?
right? That you can actually love what you do as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Like
You know,
I'm
well, I
actually
was going
being
to
very
say,
facetious right now because I absolutely love what we do, and I look forward to waking up every morning. And it is still super fun to me, even after all this time, and how we've grown and all the lives that we've got to impact over the years. But yes, it is truly. Um, I think it's becoming, and I don't know if there's statistics to back this up or what, but and I say this because I was just on a business trip and a guy at the bar and we were watching football, and he said we got to know each other a little bit, and I told him I was an entrepreneur. He told me he was an entrepreneur. And then a few minutes later, he said to me, "Are you happy?" And I was like, "Heck yeah." Of course I am. And so he said to me, "Oh, I'm so miserable." He's
mm,
like, "Everybody is at my throat. Everybody's coming down on me. Everybody looks to me for everything." And he's just whining and moaning and just like it is physically on his face how unhappy he is. And I was like, I just felt so bad for him. I was really sad for him. And, I said a quick prayer because I was like, Lord, if we're living out our purpose on this earth, there's joy with that. There is absolute joy in that. So I prayed for him. That's what.
I think that's a great solution. If I was sitting next to him, I think I would have asked him, what do you really want? Like
Mm,
what does this what do you need this business to do for you in your core? Like what is it that you are wanting to create? And
right.
because in entrepreneurship too, as an entrepreneur, we can't not create the thing. It's almost like once it's planted in us, we have to do it. Like we get scrappy and we make sure that it happens and we do our best and we just go for it. That's our personality. But
Right.
when we get to a place where we are negative and we are, um, the only way I really know how to describe it is when you feel like you're dying from the inside out. And I know that that sounds so dramatic, but it's a real feeling.
Mm-hmm.
When you feel that way, you have misaligned values. The things that you're doing are not aligning with who you are as a person. And so,
Mm,
therefore, you kind of come back to that question of what do you really want?
right. I love that. And I don't think I asked him that question. I think I said something to him about delegating to his team, and he's like, "They all keep coming to me." Well, anyways,
Great.
that
I
would have
wish
been a
I had
great
his
question.
number. I could really help him.
Well, hopefully we'll stay in touch. It was last week. It's probably time for a follow up.
Yeah, we
Keep
need
you
to
in
check
mind.
on him.
Right? He definitely needs some help. 'Cause
Yeah.
I was like, Lord of mercy, that's just so sad, so sad.
Yeah.
But thank goodness for people like you who can help him find himself, and others do the same to make sure that they are aligned with their purpose and that they have joy in their lives and they're happy doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for
Absolutely.
that, Jillian. And I think, did we flash up your socials and how to reach you, and everyone knows
I
how
think
to stay in
so.
touch?
I
Yep.
think so. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. We have an amazing producer behind the scenes. Thank you for keeping us on track. We love it. So, Jillian, is there one question that you wish I would have asked you today that I didn't?
Oh no, we talked about all my favorite things. So I'm good. But I will say, I do want to just shout out to your team because being on the podcast, and I know this is something that you guys do for your clients as well, but the experience has just been incredible. And as somebody who really values effective systems and communication, you knocked it out of the park. So I just wanted to shout out your team and say that they've done an amazing job. And I've really appreciated the experience of being here with you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much for that feedback. I'll definitely relay the message because that means so much to us. Because, yes, this is a service that we offer to our clients. I'm producing podcasts, and we want every single guest to feel and look and sound their absolute best. So, thank you so much for that. Jillian, you were made for something great. So, go and be awesome.